Welcome back. This morning we're out in the greenhouse checking our DIY ponds DIY bog filter or natural DIY biofilter that we created with only stuff we had on hand and moving the water with solar power. Now if that sounds interesting, please consider subscribing to the channel. Let's get right into this. I want to show what we did and then I'm going to talk about everything. So just at a quick glance, we've got lots of plants living in this water. Lots of sediments are forming, but you can notice how crystal clear the water really is. It is super clean, super clear. We've got some fish swimming around in here somewhere. Little guppies. So I had thrown a few little guppies in here, and I noticed a few little tiny baby guppies already also. I don't see any of them now. They're all hiding from me early this morning. There is one right there. You can see got a little male guppy right down here too. You can see him swimming around. Nice pretty male guppy and a couple females. So that was about the only investment or purchase we had put into this whole little thing. So as this operates, you can see how it created its own layers of sediment falling out from that sand, just slowly leveling backwards. So the water's forced down through the sand, and you notice that we don't have it actually flowing right now because it's just getting up and going. So this little piece of copper that the water's blowing through is also like a fail-safe because it acts like a straw and draws it back down into the pond, not allowing any overflow over nighttime. So the water will sit and it goes a little bit below this. We designed it that way so it's still refreshing the water and it's still flowing water through, but it's also siphoning back down, and I don't have to worry about any overflows or fish getting sucked through at nighttime while they're sleeping. So this is about how it operates right now overnight, and the sun is just breaking up here, and we are going to have some good water flow in about 10-20 minutes here. But you can see just how violently it pushes all that sand, and all this sand has been sifted out just simply by water. And now we've got all these plants blocking the sand, and we're going to continue adding plants. So as we began developing this little bog filter or biofilter with only rocks and roots, we had a suggestion from a subscriber to throw some sand in there or make a sand filter. Now this isn't your typical sand filter where you're forcing it down and up through the sand, but we are forcing it into the sand and the sand is catching it and creating a lot of stagnation in those dissolved particles and all of the floating suspended matter that's floating around in the water. As you can see, it was almost like a natural setting where the water flow would push all of the minerals, nutrients, sediment all over the place, and then it slowly settles out at the natural point that it would. So as it settles, there's microorganisms, there's bacteria in this water and the plant roots that are going to start to turn this to usable nutrients and start filtering and cleaning the water out. So one of you guys suggested we use some sand, and I've got buckets and buckets of free sand here. We've got tons of free sand. Now we rinsed this out to get any dust particles out, and then we just started putting it into the little filter down where the water's forcing it in, and it is working wonderfully. Our pond is super clear. We can see almost all the way to the bottom. This is like 3.5 foot down at the shallower end and almost 4 foot at the little deeper end down there. So I can see the top of my little pump down there that is actually forcing the water up. So I can see down 3.5 feet almost, and that is pretty darn cool. I can see all of these fish almost all of the time. My son's koi are nice and bright. So we have definitely cleared up this water, and we have great water clarity and great water quality. So as I was showing in here, we put all of the sand directly under the water spout, or the water forced in underneath and into the sand. We used all of our rocks and plants and pots as a barrier. So we've got like a little sand bar in the corner where all of that is filtering through and slowly sedimenting out. And as everything settles, it starts to break down and the roots pick this up and they are thriving off of it in this little aquaponics bin. So this is a great way to pull all of that suspended matter out of your water and really improve water clarity and allow these plants to filter the nutrients. As this water passes through the roots, it is picking up and dissolving all of those minerals and nutrients. So the original thought behind this was to get some flow, get some aeration, and have better water quality just off of aeration alone. And as I was processing this and going through my 50-cent pond book, which I'm going to show a few pages from this. I got this book at a resale store, and for 50 cents there is a wealth of knowledge in here. I would have paid $10 for it if I knew all of the stuff that was in it that I'd be able to use. I picked this up a few years ago and I've always had it sitting on the shelf. I will always buy those 50-cent dollar books and stuff like that to keep them at my disposal, because I really like to be able to read and pull knowledge and have some type of hard context, just in case we don't have power out here in the country, because it's pretty windy sometimes that we lose power. Internet's gone, you can't look things up. So what are you going to do? You're going to read a book. So on the other hand, these plants are also turning dissolved CO2 into dissolved O2. These plants' roots and a lot of water plants, any plants that are in the water, will exchange CO2 through their roots and give off oxygen at the same time. So they're helping oxygenate this water as it flows through this little bin here. Using a bog system like this is a no-brainer. Like I said, it can pull CO2, add oxygen, dissolved oxygen to the water, pull all those suspended minerals, nutrients, fish waste. It can cleanse and detoxify any chemicals that may leach or be spilled in here or be dusted in here by a cornfield or something. And these plants can even help pick up any heavy metals or dissolved metals that are in the water, like iron and stuff. So these really do help pull and detoxify this water, and I've noticed a huge difference in the week and a half we've been running this bog little aquaponics bin, the biofilter I'm calling it. So we are seeing great results from just simply using sand, water, roots, and rocks and solar power to move that water. And I keep saying that these plants are pulling all these nutrients and stuff, and they're really grabbing all of those nutrients that would normally chemically bond to soil. So they're pulling all of the nutrients out that would naturally sediment out. So this is a great style system to have. If you have a small pond, even if you have a large pond, you can upscale a bog filter to filter any amount of water. The sand itself actually pulls a lot of suspended matter out of the water, and I can see all of the matter that's right outside the ring of where that's getting blown in. So it's definitely pulling a lot of fish poo from the bottom here and putting it up into this top tank. And we're having a little bit of algae growth from all the excess nutrients, and that's why I ended up throwing a few guppies in here. Not only do these guppies or mosquito fish eat algae, they'll pick algae right off the rocks, they'll pick up any small matter that they can eat that they find sufficient. They also eat a ton of mosquito larvae. So let's say this is sitting all night, we have some mosquitoes lay eggs in here, and somehow we have flowing water, but let's say somehow these mosquito larvae hatch in here. That's a free food source. Any little flies, any bugs, anything that can get caught in our filter. Between this top pond and our larger pond, these fish in both are eating all of the bugs and little critters that are making their way to our pond. So there's not a whole lot that goes in that comes back out or that really just sits. There's all types of little flies coming during the day or early in the morning, late at night, little gnats and stuff like that, fruit flies, anything that makes its way in. They're always attracted to water. We have a bunch of water sources, but once they make it to this water source, our fish are basically just eating them right up, and that's another form of pest control here. So building this with just free materials we had on hand, I mean, we invested into some of these things, a lot of free rock, an old recycled pond liner, an old recycled pump that I've been using for years and years to move compost heat, to move aquaponics bins, all types of free and recycled materials, an old aquaponics bin that we just rigged up some of our old fittings to, and I just threw it all together. So this is turning out to be a very simple fix to oxygenation and filtering a simple little pond. We've got 300 plus gallons in this pond, I figured out. So We've got quite a bit of water to oxygenate and filter, and with a ton of fish making waste all the time, constantly moving, they're very active fish here, so in order to control that waste amount and keep water clarity and quality up, we had to figure out some type of simple solution. I didn't want to use some filter I had to pay for and change filters out and have incurred expenses on all of that. I wanted to run this and operate as simply and naturally as I possibly could with stuff we had. And this is turning out to be an awesome free pond and awesome feature to the greenhouse as a whole. It's very cool to be able to have some life out here. It's nice and peaceful. When I come out here and work, I do just sit and watch the fish sometimes like a little kid. So let's break down the fish waste and what is contained in it. We've got about 2.5% nitrogen, about 1% potassium, 1.5% magnesium, about 2.5% of phosphorus, and roughly 7% calcium. A lot of calcium buildup that needs to be absorbed and dealt with also. So we got a great free resource down in the bottom of here where all of the fish waste falls to, and as the pump sucks it up, it pushes it up into this top bin, and then all of the sand catches it, it starts to break down, and then our plants use it as food, and it basically just gets recycled. And in all of that, we are getting some super clean water for our fish here. So we've been using pots with large holes. I had some aquaponics pots for hydroponics and stuff. They don't have to have holes in the side, but it helps with water flow. So I'm just throwing some large rocks in here, and then I will throw some smaller rocks in. This is a very basic way to mount a plant here. So I've got this little strawberry, nice little ever-bearing strawberry. It's got some decent roots on it. I'm just gonna tuck that right into the rocks here, throw some more rocks just to hold it in place there, and then we are going right into our aquaponics bin. As long as you can keep the crown of that strawberry halfway dry, that strawberry plant will throw massive amounts of roots off, and it will hold all of those rocks together by the time we're ready to take it out, and then we can just plant it somewhere else. But right now it's going to act as a filter and pick up a lot of sediment, nutrients, everything suspended in the water that we've covered already. So the more plants we add to this, the better off the water quality is going to be for this pond. So let's take a look at that book I was talking about. Now this didn't have a cover, I just wrote ponds on it because that's what it was. So the first thing I found was a simple bog garden. Now I want to show this. This is something that was very interesting to me, and I want to leave it up there so people can zoom in and check it out and stuff. So the simple bog filter is flowing your water back through the plants and sediment back into your natural water source or the large water source. So this is another representation of how that would work. Now you have the natural filter page where you have a small pond feeding a larger pond. Now that is what gave me the inspiration. I kind of figured I was going to do something like this, but as I read through this book, I was very intrigued by a lot of setups I was seeing. Now that is a multiple stage system right here, you can see in the picture, where people are using the actual filter to grow food. I don't know if I would be growing 100% food that I'm going to eat off of here. Maybe food for animals. I'm basically just using these plants, and I'm not going to really harvest from them or eat from them because I don't know what is going to be filtered back and forth, any toxins or anything like that. So the more natural this becomes, the longer it exists as a pond feature, I'm going to be able to eat from there. I just want to cycle it for a while. This pond is pretty fresh, and we've had this filter for about a week and a half or 2 weeks maybe now, and everything's really flourishing in here, doing quite well. And best of all, they had a pump flow chart on the back of this book to show you how much you need for how many gallons, what size tubing, what size pipe you should use, how much overhead you have to account for, which is the lift of the water. I mean, you can move water forever as long as it's level, but as soon as you start having to lift it, you have to have more power. Like we have maybe a 1.5 overhead lift, 1.5 feet this has to travel from the surface of the bottom water to the top little tank. I just wanted to show a few pages from this little pond book. There is all types of stuff in here. They've got all the flowers you can be using to grow, mini cattails, all types of stuff. Our butterfly flower is a great bog flower to be filtering and stuff like that. I just wanted to show how much knowledge is wrapped up in such a simple little 50-cent item I can pick up because nobody else wants them. Being able to obtain and store a bunch of knowledge like that, just bookmark it, come back to it later, jot a few things down, and then you have all of that knowledge right at the tip of your fingers. It's just not wrapped up in a cell phone. So that's pretty much it. Let's take a look at these fish. I'm gonna feed them, we'll check them out, see what this system's running like. We have a very cloudy day now. We had the sun right before all of the clouds moved in. It was nice and warm. Now it's starting to cool off a little bit, and I think the rain's coming. So I've got a bunch of work to do in the greenhouse here, but we're gonna check this out real quick. I like watching the fish move around. I like watching the fish eat. I really like having this water feature in here. Quite interesting to be able to observe and have some life inside the greenhouse aside from plants. We got all the fish. They're always hiding up under the rocks over there. That little guy there. Very cool. You can see my filter or my pump down here, and that is like 3.5 feet down there. It's awesome to have such clean water now. Everything is operating and functioning as it should. It's quite interesting to be able to observe. I know there's a lot of glare on that. Very cool little bog filter that we're developing here. A lot of sediment falling in the top bin, which basically that's what we wanted. We wanted all the sediment, all the waste to be trapped, and then you can see how it slowly filters from large, small pebbles, and then it's got sediment layers down in here. That's all sediment right there. So that is all going to be turned to plant food and guppy food and stuff like that. The guppies will pick and eat a lot of little stuff out of here. You can see our little guppy male. He's down there courting some females or something. It's very cool to have those little fish. They're already multiplying. Those guppies are live bearers, so they'll just produce babies after babies all the time. So some of them are making their way into the large pond through the overflow, but I've noticed that the guppies will sit underneath all the rocks and weeds and plants, trying to add more plants to this, trying to plot a bunch of mint and whatever will feed on the water and live in the water comfortably. So that is pretty much it for today. All these fish are looking for more food. They're getting big fast, so the more room they got, the bigger they will grow. Very cool to have this. Hopefully we can get ourselves a nice tilapia or catfish bullhead pond. We were originally going to extend this much further, but as you can see, we've got all types of experiments going on all the time. Our little chipper we've got to make some compost piles with. Just a massive amount of stuff going on in here. I'm running out of room. You can see some of our pots are getting cleared out as we hit the farmer's market here. We sold an absolute ton of plants already. Great resource to be able to reinvest into our greenhouse, get ourselves a bigger pond liner, or possibly build ourselves another greenhouse here soon. Hopefully everybody found this useful or interesting. I just wanted to share our little findings with our little biofilter, our bog filter here. I find it very interesting and cool to just be able to come out and just observe it. Lots of observations, and I can just keep adding plants as we go, and we can just keep getting cleaner and cleaner water. So I'd like to thank you guys for checking this one out, and if you have any questions on anything I talked about in here, anything with the pond or anything with the filter, pump, fish, anything at all, or the book, let me know. I can show other pages from it. We can read out of it. If anybody's looking to develop a pond, I can definitely read out of this book here. There is a lot of information to be had. I don't even know what the Complete Pond Builder by Helen Nash. Hopefully I don't get copyrighted for that. Just trying to share some of her work there. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks to all my subscribers. I will see you guys next time.